welcome back to another episode of the Friday Council. This is episode 21. How's everyone doing today, David? Start with you.
Said
normally
David and looked at me.
Yeah, normally I say Daniel, so we'll go with David.
It's a bit
first.
hot, but yeah,
Not on here.
Yeah, it's cooling down in here, but yeah,
No swayness action in this room today.
It's like 30 degrees outside at the moment.
yeah, it's a bit too hot for my liking. But
Yeah,
other
same.
than that,
I'm
It's
good.
pretty warm.
I'm good. Excited to talk about what we're going to talk about. Nev, you kind of suggested the topic or the idea that sparked the topic. So
Yeah, well, we were
Kick us
talking midweek in the group chat, and a topic that came up for me was probably to do with consistency and why it's so hard to stay on track, or if you set goals, maintaining them. David had an example with like success and how often you can kind of like success and consistency is, one and the same almost. So yeah, had me thinking. We're almost at the end of February. Sorry, January, starting February, and
Crazy.
it's crazy because you're talking about like setting New Year's resolutions, and
that was
yeah,
a month ago.
if you're going to
like
fail,
if
you would have failed by
you would
now.
have failed by now if you're tracking it.
When you said, when Nev suggested that consistency, and you said, like about how you immediately thought about how it relates to being successful. What did you have in mind when you mentioned successful? I mean, like
Yeah, I guess.
consistency and like in business.
Yeah, I guess
then
successful
success in that way.
like traditional sense. I think everyone, when you first think of success, you think of like monetary, whatever, career path sort of success. When there could be many other forms of success, like you could be a successful artist, could be monetary gains, but you could, successful with people or something. You could be just a great people person, not great. Yeah, but I guess it'll all be like very similar. If you want to be successful at whatever it is, business, money, music, relationships, consistency will play a big part in that. Consistency and you're putting in the work to learn the required skills.
Yeah. I reckon I have one little complaint, some millennial complaint of I think it's probably harder nowadays because we have like an immense kind of grass is greener vibe with all the we know about pretty much every job, or we can know about every job in the world, and all the best ones are rammed down our throats, it feels like. So I feel like our parents' generation and boomers, maybe, just the world was a little bit smaller with no internet, so you just work at the factory that your dad worked at,
Yeah.
and that's all good, and the wages were pretty good.
Oh,
But
that
I feel like
reminds
now
me of
there's
something.
a lot of FOMO, I think. It comes to like, I could be doing, I could be consistent and get really good at this and be successful at this thing, but there's the grass could be greener. I've seen online that people are making money investing or or trading. I'm like, maybe I should do that instead.
Yeah. When I was sorry, I was just gonna say, when I remember there was a conversation I was having with my dad when I was about to start university, like after high school, and not sure what I was gonna do. So effectively I signed up for a first year commerce, just because it was like to please my parents and what they wanted, because I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was, weighing up about it. And one of the things that my dad had said was, it doesn't matter. Like, as long as you're earning a good wage, all you got to do is show up 8 hours a day, do the work, go home. And I was thinking, I was like, that is probably like the worst advice in hindsight.
I think
imagine?
it shows our privilege as well,
Yeah.
to be honest, which isn't a bad thing, like we've said before, but
like,
that
if it's a
doesn't
job
sound
you
fun.
hate, and you're just, even if you're there 8 hours a day, which is a lot, but it's also not a lot. If it's depends how you weigh it up. But man, it's just being in a grind or a
I know
slog.
exactly how you feel, and a lot of people will relate to that, I think. David, you
Yeah,
maybe disagreed.
Oh, somewhat. I see the point you're making, and it's a valid point. But you can obviously argue the opposite as well. That there's so much opportunity now that wasn't there 50 years ago. Yeah, that's it. With the internet, almost anything is possible.
But that is the point. It's like
I get it.
Yeah.
So there's two sides to the coin.
Yeah.
I think overall, it's probably way better, way easier. Certainly, like if you think what would be required if you want to be really successful in the traditional sense, run a successful business, something 50 years ago, how much harder it would be and how much riskier it would be, because you'd have to have a brick and mortar building, which would cost significant amount of money. And it would have to be done that. With the internet, starting a business in many cases can be a very low risk endeavor.
Yeah,
you run it from your home. All the overheads are lower. The reach is higher, especially with platforms like Amazon, TradeMe, eBay, etc. It's way harder, way easier to get your first customer, that sort of thing. So,
yeah. I suppose that another double-edged sword on that point is that because it's so much more low risk, so many more people. I'm going to use the C word. So many more people are trying it out as well. So if you want to be successful in it, you have to really commit, because there's going to be some Indian who's willing to not sleep and work, 14-hour shifts.
Yeah.
So you have to be better in some way, or just work harder. And that's one of the things of the globalized market. I think it's fair enough as well. Like, I've never understood the complaints about the immigrants stealing our jobs. The classic. I don't even know if that's a real person. It's definitely a caricature of like some boomer Western. Middle class.
They primarily work the jobs that people here don't want to work. So,
and it's like, damn, they'll work like this. That should be respected. Like you're saying, without privilege, it should be respected, and you should check yourself. You're like, why do I not want to put in the effort that they are?
You look at like a big common job with immigrants is sort of like aged care work, that sort of thing, rest homes. And I can imagine that would involve some, fairly gnarly sort of work.
Yeah.
Bathing old people, probably dealing with some old people who are losing their minds, sort of thing.
Definitely racist, dude. We've done work at old people homes, and I've witnessed explicit racism. There's no denying it. It's like straight hard ends directed towards the people who are feeding them. Right. They're like half dementiaed out, and I'm calling them ends to their face.
That's crazy.
It's gnarly. That should also be a check for us as well. There's a reason they want to come to New Zealand, for example, and do that and bust their ass like that. It's like we maybe don't appreciate how good we have.
Yeah.
Like we complain about house prices, but on a world scale, I mean, it's all probably relative, but $1 million buys you pretty damn well near safety. And if you can grind your whole 20 years to save up the deposit for $1 million house, you can live in pure safety, which I suppose a lot of immigrants aren't used to. What do you guys reckon about that? I wonder what you guys reckon about that sentence.
Well, success is relative. That's it. You're right. We're lucky to live in a developed first world country. Would be in the top quartile, probably top 5% even of countries in the world in terms of living standards. So that's it. And that didn't happen overnight. That happened from the blood and sweat that our parents put in, and so on and so forth to get to this place. And that's it. So when immigrants who are coming from lesser developed countries, their countries are where we were 100 years ago, sort of thing. For them, their standard of success in many cases will be different to ours because of their starting point. So that's everything is relative. That's right.
That's true. Also, young country, I reckon, as well, because India's always been, and China have had a lot of people for a long time. So I suppose New Zealand's it was basically empty, and it still relatively is empty.
Yeah.
So I suppose that has something to do with it as well. But yeah. Immigration. No more comments on that.
Yeah, I guess there's probably a little bit of a tangent.
They come for success.
It's true.
They have made it. If they come here and consistently work big hours, typically.
That's it, and they
have success.
Yeah, for the most part, those who come and do find success, whether that just be working an ordinary job and they've have the ability to buy a house and raise a family here. I just completely lost my train of thought.
They win. That's a W for them and for anyone.
Yeah, sorry. That's what I was going to say is that, a lot of them will look at the sort of things that, we'll look at common complaints in New Zealand and think, well, just it's so ridiculous that you complain about price of food or these other, relatively trivial things.
Yeah.
But compared to the sort of problems that they had faced when they were growing up.
Yeah, I agree. There should be a moment for reflection when if you feel like a little annoyed that immigrants are stealing our jobs.
Yeah, I would probably just piggyback off that. Like here, it feels like the way of life. We talked about in an old podcast, like perspective of when you travel, just to see how things are in different places. But living in New Zealand, it seems life is generally on the slower side.
Yeah,
like you have
100%.
like a work-life balance.
Yep.
Whereas let's say take United States for example, when things are so fast-paced there, it's all about the whole culture, even around like having, let's say for example, having a coffee. Generally New Zealand, I think Australia, your coffee culture, that's not a plug for the cafe, but you sit down, you have a chat, you catch up with friends, whereas for example the States, you've got like Starbucks and you're on the go, you gotta you're working,
you're doing business
hard, you're doing business. It's kind of known as like a success thing. If you've got the coffee cup, like you're hard at work. So if you're living in such a slow paced environment like New Zealand for the most part, it's kind of hard to set goals and be consistent. You kind of have to, I guess, sort of track where you go. It's like a big picture sort of vibe, New Zealand, like.
Okay, yeah. I suppose because it's slower paced, what on the average Kiwi determines is success, and what the average American is probably quite different then as well. Yeah,
well, like in New Zealand, you typically don't talk about money, for example, with your friends, whereas it can be more open in other countries. Like, you're talking about how much you earn salary-wise, what sort of job you're doing, growth of your business and dollar value and figures, etc. But here it's like we kind of form a shell around ourselves. You keep it to yourself as long as you're plugging and working hard. Like, I don't know, you kind of see around our age, a lot of people are having babies or having buying houses. It's like
people start to make moves.
Yeah, they start to make moves, but it's all happening in like the silence. And like you don't really, you're kind of working behind the scenes. So I guess, if you've got like a close group of friends, generally you're keeping each other accountable, which I think is what we're trying to do. Create like a vibe or a environment around that. But consistency in the sense, like, one example for me personally was like my mum speaks Tagalog because she's Filipino, and I always wondered like, wow, why did you not teach me growing up? Could have been bilingual. So it's like if I was tried to learn the language now, I'd have to put in the time and the effort. Whereas when I was younger, it kind of would have just probably happened naturally or like developed over time.
Thanks a lot, man.
And I thought about like, well, maybe I could learn it and go back to the Philippines and visit my family over there and be able to speak to them in their native tongue. But it's like that would require a lot of effort, a lot of time, consistency, and just like practice day in, day out.
Yeah.
And then
what would the reward be? Would you
for like is the
respect,
the input worth the output that you'd get?
Yeah, I get that.
Sorry. Well, I think a good point, is in New Zealand. I think there's, and it's probably not just limited to New Zealand, but just speaking from personal experience, there's an expectation gap with a vast majority of the country. People want success in terms of, we look at, a John Key or something, or even not that, just we look at, property developer, he owns a bunch of houses and he's,
a guy in a suit.
Success. The stereotypical like New Zealand success is you own multiple properties sort of thing. And most of us, even if we won't admit it, want that. We want to be in that position. We're envious of people who are in those positions, but we're not willing to sacrifice, take the risk to potentially get it, because of course nothing is guaranteed. And so I think a good way is to flip this on its head. I may or may not have said this before, but the natural like order of the world is poverty. It's nothingness. We're cavemen, and it requires people to build things. And we're very fortunate that a lot of people have built a lot of good stuff that we get to take advantage of today. If we think of like the internet,
standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah. Roads and just all the basic things that we have access to, and even to a certain extent, just like if you're working for a company, someone's took a risk to build the company to the position where they can hire people, and so on and so forth. So I think most people, there's this gap where it's like we don't realize, how lucky we are to have access to all this good stuff, because as I say, you need to flip it and you need to think, geez, someone has to create this stuff, and it's not easy to create. So if you're not willing to put in the work in that, or effort, risk, whatever you want to call it, that's fine. But I think, you just need to readjust your expectations. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you say, actually, I've really thought about what would be required to build the money or whatever to be able to buy a second property or start this business, and that would require me sacrificing all my coffee dates, my social life for a period of time, and risking my life savings, whatever it may be. Actually, it's too much of a risk. I'm just happy because it's not such a bad life that I do get to work a 9 to 5 and go out for coffee and watch Netflix and stuff like that. So just I think there needs to be an understanding of, and of course there'll always be these exceptions, the overnight TikToker or whatever, but they're not the best. They're going to be the aberrations. In most cases, success is slow, arduous, boring work, and there's a lot of survivorship bias, which we've talked about before.
Yes.
You're only seeing the ones who made it. You're not seeing all the ones who failed.
Yeah. The overnight successes we see, considering there's like 5 billion people on the internet, it's literally a point of a percent. It's you might as well ignore it.
Yeah,
you might as well not take any advice from the random dude who.
The only thing to take note of is that they still took a chance on whatever it is. So uploading a TikTok video or whatever, they still took a chance, which most people won't take that first step.
It's true.
I say I still haven't uploaded a video on YouTube. Not that that's a massive, goal for me in terms of, I'm not putting all my eggs in the YouTube basket sort of thing. But if you want to be a YouTuber, like you've got this inkling that's, your passion to be a video maker, a vlogger or whatever it is, and you never upload the first video, you can't be upset that you're not successful or potentially successful, because you have to take that first step, and then you have to be consistent.
Do you think that's more of like kind of like a fear of failure sort of thing,
or ridicule?
Or not your uploading to you. I'm just saying generalization.
No, there's probably a number of cognitive biases or factors in there. Procrastination, or self-doubt, fear of failure. Even some say a fear of success. In some cases, they're worried that.
What do you do with it when?
I know it sounds ridiculous, but that is supposedly a real thing. That if I blow up, then I'm going to be in this different category to all my friends. My family are going to look at me in a different way, that sort of thing. But there's a number of things. But that's it. All those people who have built the so-called successful lives would have, almost all of them, maybe there's a few psychopaths out there, would have faced those same self-doubts and fears. And some of them would have been slightly different to yours. But that's it. You have to recognize that and overcome it. And there's a great quote from the movie Three Kings, George Clooney in it. What did he summed it up as? I think it's courage is the word he used. Courage is not, you don't get the feeling of courage before you do the thing. You do the thing you're scared shitless of, and afterwards you get the courage. And that's so true.
Yeah.
That's it.
I can't say I've seen this movie, but the quote here is Archie Gates. The way it works is you do the thing you're scared shitless of, and you get the courage after you do it, not before you do it.
Yeah, I reckon the answer to your question is more like fear of ridicule and social ridicule, and I reckon I agree with the uni bomber Ted Kaczynski that we're like super over socialized now, especially with social media, like as a generation on the whole, like super over socialized. Or that's a matter of opinion whether we're over socialized, but we're definitely super socialized these days. And so I feel like the fear of ridicule and ostracization is magnified nowadays. And so like you can't be resentful. And I feel like that's kind of being, you don't want to be black-pilled. You don't even want to be black-pilled and resentful and the victim. Actually, you just don't want to be the victim. But so doing something and it feels good, and getting past that fear of ridicule, it's always a good thing.
Yeah, so there's real obvious examples.
Doing this for an example.
There's real obvious example, like the most obvious examples with YouTubers is that we all know that every YouTuber, no matter who you are, you're gonna have a portion of people who talk shit about you from the day you make a video, or to the day when you finally get it, a few views on your video. There's gonna be someone who doesn't like something about you, the way you look, the way you sound, what you see, whatever it is. And that is daunting. But that's what I mean. This is part of what's going to be required if you want the success. Is you're going to have to realize that you're going to have to give up the comfort of living in obscurity. Probably, as I say, in the case if you want to be like a public facing, thing like that.
You can take even like the public forum of, say, Facebook, for example, and commenting. I'm not one who generally comments on articles or posts on Facebook, but there have been a couple of times where, if you do, and some random might comment back. There's a couple of times where you've just had some, like, I don't know this person, but they kind of alienate you in a way, and realistically you should brush it off. It's like, who is this? I don't know this person. They're just a random. We all have our opinion, so for free speech and all, but it kind of like affects your desire to like put yourself out there or to grow. And it's like it's almost like it doesn't make sense, because generally as we get older we sort of realize it's like, who cares what people think about you? But then there'll always be those moments where it like creeps into your like self-doubt. Do I continue? And I think like it's hard, especially if you're trying to set out to do a task or a project or something. The initial hump or the first step is always the hardest to get over. But when you generate momentum, that's when you find easier to consistency. So you could like bring it down to, for example, if you're trying to lose weight or go to the gym, the earliest output is the hardest, because it's day one, here I am showing up, not seeing any results, not doing anything, you just consistently going. But if you start to see progress, it like drives you to keep wanting to do more. And so like this is, for example, for us, it's like we're up to episode 21 now. And
it's easy.
First couple of episodes, it's like, okay, we're dipping our toes in the water. How do we do this? Trying something new. And then as you just generate momentum, you put a little bit of work in, you learn things, you understand. It kind of becomes easier, more second nature and natural. And I think you can kind of develop that in any aspect or facet of your life.
So I think, like the key thing is that you have to like stop listening to the bullshit that you tell yourself. Or if you are going to continue listening to the BS, I can't do it because of this, or if I do it, this is going to happen, then just, reevaluate and say, okay, so that's too much of a fear for me. I'm just going to be happy living the life I'm living. But don't do the thing where you're like, I really want to do this. It's so unfair that I can't do it. Telling yourself all these reasons that you can't do it. You just have to get over that. And that's that. Once you do get over it, it'll become much easier. And I'm not saying I have all the same fears that humans have. You tell yourself all these bad stories. Oh, people are gonna say nasty things about me and all of that sort of stuff. So you just, if you really want it, you're gonna have to overcome that hump.
Yeah, it's really powerful. It's a real powerful feeling, and of that fear of. Would you say that is a fear ultimately of like ostracization?
It is, because I think if you really like boil it down, unfortunately, human nature is the classic crab in the bucket mentality. If one crab starts getting close to getting out, another one's going to pull it back down. It's unfortunate, but it is something deeply embedded in human nature for the most part, and there probably is some sort of evolutionary explanation for that. Something to do with when it was a big advantage to be staying in a pack, or it was a big if you got ostracized, like you're pretty much dead if you get kicked out of the tribe, sort of thing.
You don't want everyone to realize how useless you are, so you keep everyone else as useless as you.
Yeah. But that's one of the these old school built-in mechanisms that we have that isn't anywhere near as useful or relevant as it used to be.
Yeah, it's hard
so
to
like the fear of getting ridiculed on the internet is not going to kill you. Well, unless it has been happened, obviously, but that would be you killing yourself, which that would be terrible. But it being someone posting a nasty comment on a YouTube video in itself can't kill you. And so you just have to like put these things into perspective. And I say I would have the same fears. I'm worried about I don't like posting stuff on Facebook either because I'm worried about the way I'm going to be perceived. But at least recognize that fact and recognize, as I say, that it's not going to be the end of the world. Like people probably going to be talking shit about you whether you post or not.
It's like an example. Sorry to cut you out there.
No.
There's always been there's been a couple times in the past where I've visited a place or trying a new adventure, and I kind of even been scared to like take a selfie or a photo of like where I am. It's like this should really be like a memento for myself. It's like, here I am visiting this. I've got a picture for my own memory, but I've stopped and I've just felt like these people all around me probably think I'm a loser, like taking a photo of myself.
I'm 100%.
But it's like, what? Why?
I reckon you really got to
like that?
Chase the because it feels cringe. You feel cringe yourself, but you got to chase the cringe and embrace the cringe. That's like my biggest lesson from my 20s, to be honest. Is the people going full balls to the wall on whatever their cringe niche is, and it's going to be cringe because it's going to be, by definition, it's a niche. It's something like weird that's not like socially normal. That's what makes people interesting when you're talking to them. Like you don't want like a cardboard like cutout who have all met at parties. It's like, okay, like you can talk about work and
hey, what
that's about it.
What do you do for a living?
And like your family like a 5-year-old group introduction, like your hobby. Like I like, what sports do you like? I was like, okay, there's no depth here. And so if you're not being like turbo cringe about something, like turbo nerd about something, I don't think you're doing something wrong.
I agree, except there will be people out there who genuinely like are happy to live that like stereotypical I go to work and I come home and drink beer and I'm satisfied with that. In fact, I'm very envious of those people because they do exist in many ways, because
they've either hit the jackpot and their natural personality is exactly what the system wants, or they're just like way too scared of the social ostracization.
So if you're in the second category, then you should make changes. But if you're completely content, just
that's
living,
what you'd be jealous of. You'd be like,
exactly. If you're genuinely happy living a super like narrow life, whatever you want to call it, I say that's completely fine, and I say as many ways as envious. If you make it like super simple, if we take like the life of a duck or something, not a human, such a simple life, right? For the most part, unless you live somewhere where you could be shot or other predators around. But if we take like a duck that lives at Horseshoe Lake or something, such a simple life, right? People come and feed you all day, every day.
But also exciting because you could just die by a cat at any time. Cat could just pounce out of nowhere.
Yeah, it could. But for the most part, as I say, like, it's a simple life, and they're genuinely happy because their brains are obviously wired a certain way where it doesn't require them exploring vast territories or doing radical things to make them happy. It's just getting food and doing a little bit of mating here or there, that sort of thing, and that's all there is, just chilling out.
I think there's been times in my life where you've tried to be more productive in a way, so you start writing lots of lists for things. I'm going to do this today, do this today.
You're a list guy, eh?
I generally started becoming more of a list person because I thought for me that's more for my own accountability. But then often there'll be times where I'd set way too high of a target for myself to do, and then you feel stink about it because you didn't set what you wanted to do. So there's that balance of like feeling sorry for yourself but also giving yourself a bit of like leniency, and especially if you're trying to do big goals or projects or whatever. But you can kind of have that at the same time as finding joy in like the mundane things. So whether that's like going to the supermarket and doing your grocery shop, like it's considered a boring task, or but for some you probably order your groceries, so for others it's a necessity. But like at the same time you can flip it on its heel. It's like, well, it's gonna suck, there's gonna be a lot of people at the supermarket, we're gonna bump into each other, but I'll just chuck on some headphones and listen to like a podcast or some music. And I think they're kind of like little opportunities to like reset. I don't know if you have like busy days where you're trying to get a lot done, or you've got, like for me, shifting house at the moment. It's a hard, there's just lots of things on the go.
Yeah, I forgot you're doing that.
But you still need to have like time to yourself, or just time to like think and be in your own head. Otherwise, it's just can become too much. You're just so focused and set. And
a nice way of putting it, that a recent Zen teacher said to us, like before like a Q&A, just asked everyone to just come. He said, "Come home," and which just meant like for a couple of minutes just sit in silence with your eyes closed. And I think that's kind of what you mean. Well, that's a way of getting to the place you're talking about, I think, where it's like coming home and you just like sit and just like let everything settle, and you like all your stresses are like simmer down, and then you're relaxed. Yeah. And then you reset in the way you're saying.
It's good. That's a good thing. Like just moments of like slow down, take a deep breath or whatever. I don't know about you guys. Driving, generally, like I hate traffic and I hate being in traffic, but often that can just be like forced time where you have no choice but to like, you either listen to music, listen to an audiobook, listen to podcasts, drive in silence, because there's not much you can do while driving.
I like driving in silence, to be honest. People think I'm a freak. Yeah. No, I mean, there's other people in the car. It's always podcast usually, but very rarely. Just silence is better than radio. It's like podcast, silence, radio for me.
Yeah, I don't listen to the radio. I personally feel like it's wasted time, but like those are the moments where, despite trying to be consistent and you've got a lot of things you want to complete or do, to just reset and like actually think and then formulate game plans or whatever. I don't know, I recommend that for others.
I agree. There'll be different ways to get into that, like I mentioned. Like there's a different way of getting to the same place, but I wanted to ask you guys, if we're all being really honest with our visions of success, or just everyone's society's visions of success, how much of that does have to do with like some kind of social flexing? Like how much of your dream is your dream, or you know what I mean? Or how much of it is based off the fact that you're better compared to other people? Yeah, is it truly what you want?
I'm not afraid to admit that, and I think this might be a more masculine thing than a feminine thing, but I think Andrew Tate said it, maybe not the best guy to quote at the moment, but
I thought of him
as a man, you want the world. Like, that's it. I want world domination. Like, if I'm talking obviously it's never going to happen. I don't believe in myself that much, but if I could conquer the world, if I could be this dictator who could control the world and implement my vision, that's a great fantasy. Obviously it doesn't have to be that extreme. But I want...
It's a good goal.
Yeah, it's a lofty one. If you think like British Empire or something at its peak, man, like that's whoever was, running the strings there, man, like that would be sick. I'm sure that comes with a lot of bad stuff.
Another Andrew Tate thing that comes to mind was he mentioned that the fun of being rich is to show off. Like, that's the point, is to show off. Like, that's why he wants all the stuff. That's his direct paraphrased quote. It was like, that's why you do it, is to show off. Yeah. And he was admitting it.
There'll be an aspect of that. I guess everyone will be a little bit different. Yeah. But if you think like we love playing games like Age of Empires and whatnot, is this because we're doing like that? We're conquering.
You have control.
It's this feeling of power, and just a feeling of like conquest, like achieving things, like if you think compared to like the trivial things that we achieve in our daily lives, imagine like taking over another country or something, that would be quite the feeling. As I'm not saying it's a good thing to do.
Maybe I'm too estrogen dominant, but I don't like when I feel like I suppose it's a similar thing where it's like I'd like just like my land, like a big bit of land where I control. So I suppose it's a similar thing.
Yeah, and maybe like a less nefarious example I could use is, although it's still, I guess, by modern standards, is a bad example, like a Christopher Columbus or an explorer, a great explorer, exploring uncharted waters. Man, what a feeling that must be to find a place that has never been found before, or obviously in some cases had been found,
brand new to you at least.
Yeah, brand new to you, never been put on a map. That must be, like, as I say, the achievement of feeling that you think that there's this place out there, but you don't know, and then you go and find it. Can you imagine, like, compared to like the crap we do in our daily lives, like the feeling of accomplishment? I mean, maybe that's me. I think it'd be relatively common in men. Like that would be, climbing Mount Everest for the first time. Edmund Hillary. Like we all idolize him, right? Because like that's it. That's a form of conquest.
And I suppose those things take like a lot of time as well. You have to, for
risk.
Edmund Hillary, you have to consistently be climbing day in, day out for I don't know how long. And same with the sailing. You have to be like
and
months at a time at sea doing nothing.
Yeah, a form of conquest in a positive light in the form. So like that's a much better example rather than taking over a country. Of like, climb Mount Everest is not, well, you could argue that there are negatives to it because that then sets a precedent and now it's overrun with crap and dead bodies and rubbish. But at the time Edmund Hillary did it, there were no like drawbacks to him other than risking his own life and then
Tenzing.
Yes, and I think he may have some complaints about the experience. But yeah, in general, you get the point. Like doing something like that, like it's a form of conquest with very little negatives to it.
Yeah,
but
it's definitely a form of conquest.
Can you just like repeat the initial question you asked before again?
Oh, I didn't formulate it very well, but I think it was is how much of our goals that we share, us three, and then other people our age or as a society, is actually just purely what we want, and how much of it is influenced by the fact that we will get to flex, or we can compare ourselves to other people and we say, well, we're successful compared to them.
It's like slightly different because you were talking it from like a man's perspective, and I'm not trying to speak on behalf of women here, but just generally I'd say is it's more for women maternal to like raise a family and to have kids, so that would be like classed as success in a family sense. It's not the same for every person, so just putting it out there. But yeah, like for a man, I guess our goal is to like achieve, to provide, to continuously succeed, progress forward in the world and society, how they perceive us. But I think it's a very worldly trap. Like
what do you mean by that?
Well, like when you see, for example, like influencers or successful people who, like you're saying, flexing, so driving the nice cars, the watch, wearing the nice watch, the nice clothes. Sure, that's like obtainable, and that can be something to work towards. But like a lot of that is just like it doesn't mean anything. It's all materialistic anyway. Like you could live a modest, comfortable lifestyle, like you said, generally in New Zealand for like $1 million, whether that's most of your asset, like your house is your asset, and then invest or another rental, like you're basically living off a modest, comfortable lifestyle. But if you're constantly chasing the next thing, like, hey, I want to fly first class on every flight I go on, or I want the nicest food, like, yeah, it's great to enjoy these things, but when does it end if you're just constantly trying to level up and level up and level up?
Yeah, and the reason why you're doing it is important as well. Like, I mean,
that's
my chickens are my pride and joy, but a lot of people couldn't give less of a shit that I have chickens, and I'm like, that's like my best achievement. Is only I never thought I could have chickens.
It's different for everyone. Like for some people, it would be to have the mansion with many rooms, bathrooms, pool, whatever. For a lot of people, I just want a comfortable space where I can sit at a desk, work, do my thing. It's not just material. It could be material things, but
I think there's a big difference between materialism and the power conquest thing that I'm talking about.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree. Like chasing material. Well, for me personally, I think for most people that it'll end up like, because that we've sort of like used this example before, like where you could be ultra wealthy but you have no purpose because you're sitting at home doing nothing. And as I say, these forms of conquest that I'm talking about can be anything, like a business venture. If we think about, someone, I don't know, like a Warren Buffett or something, the guy's just like obsessed with like business, buying businesses, making businesses better. Like that's a form of conquest, generally a positive one. I think most people would agree. And it could be like writing. You're obsessed with writing or making movies, whatever it is, and you just want to keep getting better and better. I think, you'll know it if you have like that burning desire, and whatever your craft is.
I think you'll know it.
Yeah, and I think that's an endless thing where it's like playing a video game and just keep leveling up. I think that's much different to just buying the latest Ferrari or Rolex, which I think you get very quickly.
I guess I agree on what you're saying. I think maybe I just misinterpreted, like you're talking about like the perception of what other people think about you. And so in that sense, you're obviously trying to get better and better for the sake of looking the part or playing the part. Whereas, if you're just
like
chasing like a knowledge or like you're perfecting your craft or your job or your workmanship, then I don't see an issue with that.
Yeah, another workout gym example. It's such a good example for so many things. You're like working on your body, but like it comes to mind the fact that like muscles are hard to get, like full stop. So they're always going to be admired by other people and socially because they're hard. No one's impressed by something that's super easy to get that everyone has. Yeah. That's why big muscles. Unless you're cheating, but even then, it still requires effort. Yeah. So, they're always going to be admired, and so that kind of like I think probably more than we realize. Generates our concepts of success just by what's like a mansion is hard to get, so it's always going to be like held up by all of society in general. If you know what I mean?
think like if we're gonna like get real serious here, like as a man, it's to increase your sexual value, right? Yeah, so if you have all this hard to obtain stuff, it's going to increase your chances of mating. If you're gonna as I say, if we're gonna be frank about it,
and deep down,
I think of course, I think the vast majority of I can't speak for all me, but for me personally, you do have that, and it's a very primitive urge, and it's good if you can recognize that. But that primitive urge that you want to be successful, so that all the girls who turned you down when you were at high school, you can be like, oh, now look at me, you made a mistake.
The classic ex-girlfriend flex. But it's like, this is what you gave
I don't think it's even that deep down for most guys.
No, and it's a very primitive thing.
Yeah.
But it's still a thing. But I think it's a fairly, that's not going to provide you like lasting fulfillment. I think, like once you get that, and now all of a sudden, now you're getting all the dates that you wanted to get or whatever, or now all your colleagues or all the guys that you went to school respect you or whatever it is. You'll get over that pretty quickly, and you'll be like, oh, now what next? For sure. As I say, that'll play. It plays a part. But.
And I agree completely. But that's not to be mistaken as a cope for the cope of like, oh, rich people aren't even happy anyway. That cope, like rich people are often depressed. Anyway.
That's a massive cope. That's a great, great. There's lots of those sort of cliches about wealthy people that we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better about not
being wealthy.
Yeah. Oh, it's not all it's cracked up to be, son.
Yeah, it's.
You don't know. You've never been rich.
And like all things, there's a broad spectrum. Like there's going to be poor people who are happy. Poor people who are depressed as shit. There's going to be middle class people. And there's going to be wealthy people.
I suppose actually an evidence of the society propping up and generating what we then think of as success in some kind of like in some circular loop fashion is the the technology. Like a big TV back in the day was much more of a flex than it is now. And now,
Yeah.
I mean, you can still go bigger,
Yeah.
but which I've seen and are outrageous. But you know, a 32-inch TV now is, because it's not hard to get, it's not hard to attain monetarily, so no one's impressed by a 32-inch TV. But 20 years ago, that was a massive flex. So
Yeah,
I think
flat
obviously
screens came out.
Yeah.
We used to have like the big CRT screens.
yeah.
And now it's like,
So I think that's
just
always
common.
going to be moving. It just moves with the time, with culture and with technology is another one. And so success is always going to change. So, I mean, do you guys reckon there's going to be just there's always going to be just a percentage of people who can be that successful? Because the more people that get that level of success, it just moves it.
I mean, it depends how obviously you got to draw it back to what you define success as. Like I heard today,
Yeah, true.
Like an example, and I think in the 1970s in the USA anyway, like the most coolest sought after people were like astronauts and scientists, whereas now you generally think as someone who's successful is like an athlete who plays sport, who earns, you know,
all forms of conquest.
Yeah. So it's like that's not a bad thing because
True.
you know that means there's money involved in things and they grow, and then there's more audience, more viewership, etc., etc. But like I remember being a kid, like looking up at space, and when the I think I did one of my first projects in year 3 on the space shuttle. It was like, man, how cool would it be to be an astronaut? But now it's like,
I still think that's cool.
yeah, it is cool. It's very cool when you're wearing your space shuttle t-shirt.
Yeah, I still think it's cool.
But yeah, you just perceive a success is different to each person, like how it's perceived.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have all heard the kind of. I mean, it's a little bit worrying to hear what the kids want to be when they grow up. Like you're saying, compared to like very practical, beneficial for society, or at least more beneficial for society, where it's like astronaut and what are the old ones in the
Fireman.
70s?
Yeah, fireman.
Yeah, and now it's all like influencer, just like degenerate influencer gamer.
Yeah.
I wanna be an esport athlete.
Again,
a shame.
If you like look in there, if it was in the case of like, again, those are, I think you keep coming back to it, like forms of conquest. Like
Yeah, it's a good point.
TikToker, you know, 1 million subscribers, 2 million, you know, you're dominating esport. You're dominating. I think actually the example there of athletes, that's a good one, especially if we're talking like a rugby or an American football, you know, these brutal sports where it's actually, you know, like a form of war or battle, whatever you want to
It's a
call
war
it.
of contrition, as they call
Yeah.
it, I think.
Yeah, it's like light war. War light mode.
And that, again, like serves that very primitive urge, masculine urge.
Yeah, that's undeniable. It's
For-
got to be
It
undeniable.
is, but this is like a great example is that because sports careers are generally so short, you see a lot of athletes who struggle once that's over, once their career's over, because they've been in the limelight and they've had this great grand purpose, you know, to win the title, and you know,
And then there's only so many media broadcasting jobs out
Yeah.
there, so they can't just
Yeah,
slot
commentator
into
jobs.
and even like those gigs are like nothing to actually, you know, compared to being on the battlefield. And you see that it's a huge problem with athletes after they retire. So many of them end up in terrible mental positions because they've lost all their grand purpose.
Yeah,
But they're obviously what you'd call like the pinnacle of consistency, because day in, day out, week in, week out, they'd have to be working hard, training, eating the right foods, doing the right, getting enough sleep, etc., etc.
And I think it's all so much easier when you've got like this grand purpose. So that's in the case of like an All Black, obviously a great example that all New Zealanders can understand is like Rugby World Cup. Like it's the pinnacle of rugby, and it's obviously highly regarded in New Zealand. Like the country will, you know, drop to a standstill if they win the World Cup, sort of thing. So all those, like the tiny everyday things, the consistency that's required becomes so much easier when you've got this large vision. It just makes that gives you that like burning desire to push through all those seemingly mundane tasks. But I think that might be a good point to make, because I think the ultimate form of success is like, pursuing what you love ultimately. So say for some it's athletics, whatever, some it's business, writing. It can be in so many shapes or form. I think that's the ultimate form of success, if you get really, really good at what you love doing. and obviously especially if you can make money from it, because that will make your
even
life
better.
so much easier and open doors and whatnot. But I think that's the ultimate form of success, rather than, as I say, you could be, a millionaire, you inherited the money or whatever, or you made the money in a banking career that you didn't really enjoy, but it was a super well paying job, and now you've retired at 40. So you've got the money, you're successful, but you don't have a purpose, sort of thing. So I think the ultimate form of success is doing what you love.
Yeah. And it's like if you're looking at retirement, for example, like a lot of people, especially our age, you're looking at retirement as like a number to reach to or attain when you turn 65, or it might be raised to 67 very shortly for us anyway. It's like, what are you going to do? Well, if you make it to that age anyway, what are you going to do after that? Like,
if you make it to that age.
About
Yeah,
that,
like,
didn't we?
I
what are you going to do?
To say,
You just,
I was kind of shook after we mentioned that last time. I've been mulling it over. It's been going round and round in my head. I was like, it just seems more and more like a bit of a scam that is like propped up. It's like not as you need to like still put in effort and still do stuff things that you enjoy. And a lot. I'm starting to see, like you're saying, with people our age making moves. Also, from our age group, our parents and whatnot are starting to make moves into retirement, and a lot of it is not this dream like life. They're just like clocking Netflix.
Yeah.
Is that what you want? Is that what you imagined your retirement was going to be like?
Yeah.
Sitting on a couch?
For
For like 6 hours a day? Oh, for like 10 hours a day? I don't know.
And there's many people.
That was good. That was all right. Oh, cool.
Many people probably,
if Rotten Tomatoes,
Yeah.
That's what
if they hadn't realized before they've retired, when they do retire, many will realize that that's it. What their job was their passion, or like was what was giving their life fulfillment. That won't be true in all cases, but yeah, like in the case of if you were a nurse or a doctor or something, a teacher, you might realize, oh, geez, I got so much fulfillment like helping people all day, every day, even though it came with those brutal night shifts and the mess, the craziness that many of those policemen would be, it's when you're in the heat of battle, you might not realize just how much fulfillment that gives you, and then you come home and do nothing all day. Yeah, you'll probably soon realize that, oh, gee, that was an awesome job.
Yeah. I just want to say some wise words from my father. He didn't intend them to be super wise. I think he kind of said it as a joke, but he would say, still to this day, he'd probably say, like, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Yeah. And he's getting close to retirement now, and that kind of that stuck with me and kind of scared me a bit. I was like, oh, I don't want to I got to do everything I can to figure it out, because it's so hard to figure it out. But I got to try. I got to do the cringe things. I got to film myself recording a podcast to figure it out, like just to see if it's an L, then all good. Then I know, then that's actually a W, because I know what I don't want to do.
I think that's a really good point. It's not easy, and I wouldn't say that I found my grand purpose. There's something that I have purpose. I love betting on sports, rugby, but it's not something I can do all the time. I'm limited by the time frames when rugby's on, and so it's not like a writer where you can just pick up a book and write every day, all day, sort of thing. But that's the closest thing I am when I'm in the middle of a season. That's when I'm at my happiest, because that's my grand purpose, and it's that form of conquest. But you're right in that in many cases it's not obvious. We kind of tend to think of like these visions, purposes, like, oh, you're just born to be, a scientist or whatever. No, often it requires you having no idea what you want to do and just trying something. Yeah. And then realizing, either I don't like it, which is good, because as you say, then you can tick that off and go on to the next thing. And then also, in many cases, I think this might be, I think I've heard it from Andrew Huberman or another credible person, where it's like, if you just find something, it could be like the most like monotonous thing in the world, but if you're good at it, or you feel like you can get good at it, that will make it like your passion. Like, say it could be, I can't think of like a really boring example off the top of my head, but
It's like a factory worker.
yeah, and then like you become like you gamify it. I think that's the term that gets thrown around now. You realize, well, yeah, like the Amazon fact, you realize you can move the parcels at 1,000,000 miles an hour and be like the number one employee, and it just gives you so much satisfaction. Like whatever it is, if
Conquesting the other employees.
exactly, if you can get good at something,
True.
it could be like the most boring thing in the world, but if you get good at it, that will cultivate that fulfillment, burning passion feeling inside you.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, for example, you're talking about like the All Blacks. So, like, a dream for a lot of people would probably be to be an All Black, or have a starting spot in the team. But when you really think about it, there's only 15 guys who can suit up on the day. You've got to be specific to the one, or maybe if you're a back, whatever, you can do multiple positions. But that effectively means someone else is missing out. So for that person, it's like, if you've set like a grand goal for yourself, or I want to be the CEO of Spark. Well, if that job's not available, you can't just do it. It's all about finding the next thing. If like if you don't know what you're doing, and I'd say the same as you. Like, there's days like, what am I actually doing with my life? But you can still set or try new things and give it enough time to see if you enjoy it. And then you put more work into that, or more effort into that. And then there's always going to be something else to do, or something else to do. And I think you'll find, and I think it's lucky, like my wife, she said she knew from the get-go what she wanted to do.
Very
that
lucky.
was her, and it's awesome.
It's very lucky.
That's like really cool. But for a lot of people, it's not about that. Yeah. So if you're in that boat, why not just keep trying new things?
Yeah, it makes me think of the concept of a dream job, or knowing what you want to do, knowing exactly what you want to do is also kind of a scam, like retirement that we're promised. It's like not actually a real thing.
It is in a way, as I think in 99% of cases, maybe not 99, but in a high percentage of cases, we view dream job as it's like this predetermined thing that we just have to find, and it's whereas they flip it. I think in most cases it'll be like what I said. You'll just find something and you'll get good at it, and that you create it rather than you walk into it. So actually a good example would be like if we say how many people are born, like if we think of like professional bodybuilding, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, was he born to be a bodybuilder, or did he start going to the gym and then made some progress and realized, I could get really good at this was like this hard, arduous task, but I'm getting good at it, and then went ham all in on it, and then and
now he's governor.
Well,
not anymore.
Former governor.
Former.
I think that's what I mean. In most cases, it's about trying something. It could be super random.
Throw shit at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah,
to put it crassly.
Yeah, I think in a lot of cases it will happen super randomly. They'll be offered a job through a family friend or something. I don't know. I can't think of a great example, but just this random door opens and they would have had no idea. Actually, a really good example that just randomly popped into my head is this dude who went to school with. I guess I won't say his name. Not that I'm speaking poorly of him, but he didn't do very well at school. He hated going to school, and then he got offered a painting apprenticeship. It's not the person that you're probably thinking about, so he dropped out of school, I think it was in year 12, and now he's a really successful painter, and he loves it. So I think it was just a random door. I can't remember if it was a door open through school, because that sort of thing did happen, or if it was through like a family friend or something. But he would have had no idea that I'm going to be this painter. And he tried it, and then he obviously got good at it, and now he's really successful painter.
The key is to recognize those doors. How many doors have passed us by, whereas God's like, come on, like I'm giving you opportunities, and we're just like,
or it could be like someone reaching out and be like,
listening to podcasts, not looking.
Why don't you come along to this? And you're like, it sounds lame, but it could actually be
or it's like, come on, I'll introduce you to all these people, this group of people, and you're like, nah, I'm a bit nervous around new people, and one of them could have offered you your dream job. I was just finishing the point of whether the dream job was kind of like a farce scam, as well as I think maybe retirement might be. And then also related to you guys, how you guys were saying there's always the next thing. Like when you're chasing materialism, you'll get there and you'll get all the girls and all the clout, and then there's nothing after that, and you can kind of keep ramping up until conquest the world, and then what? And then it's the same thing, and then it makes me think, yeah, exactly. But it's never ending. And then I was thinking, perhaps it's we're just getting further and further as a culture and individuals, further and further away from what we actually should be doing, which was like the little things, like you said, and just like being present and enjoying grocery shopping and making and getting. Maybe that's the like. Maybe you can be fully satisfied just doing the groceries and doing the dishes and sitting on under a tree.
Well, even, like good example, we had Elton John play at the arena this week, and how many people did I see like at the concerts through social media? It's like, I mean, it's all well and good. You've had a great time, and I wish I was there. Lucky for me, I live close by, so I basically got a free concert anyway. But it's like, just be present in the moment and enjoy it.
Yeah. That's true. But unless we all did watch them, so they got what they wanted. Yeah, because we watched it.
I see what you mean.
If we were if I was true to I watched them as well. Like, I don't have to watch anyone's Facebook stories, but I do. So I'm kind of feeding it.
But then is it habitual, or is it like
habitual? It's just
you just don't consciously think about it. You just open it up. And
Tristan Tate said it well. He wouldn't be the first to say it, but it's like a digital pacifier. It's like it just pacifies your boredom. Yeah, you feel boredom running out, and you're just like a dummy, like a baby with a dummy in the mouth.
Phone, thing. Oh, yep, it's right there.
Yeah,
what's this person?
Colors, pretty colors, and optimized search, home screens.
I think on that note of Elton John, though, like that's a good example of like how old is the guy, and
75.
Yeah, and so that was his last concert in New Zealand. But like, so he'll be wealthy, as real wealthy, but he's doing that because he loves making the music. And that's what I mean. Music is like an endless adventure. You can always make a new song, you can always do a new concert, until you get to the point where he is saying, I better slow down a bit. But that's 75, that's well past the age of retirement, and still performing, and I presume will still perform back where he lives in the States. I assume it is.
So there's I don't know if I just picked it up off other people over the past, but generally when you think about like musicians as they get older and they go out on like tours or they're performing new shows, there used to be a big saying like, they're drying up, they just need the money, so they're going like performing. But like, if you flip it from that perspective, it's like they're just doing what they love. There will be
that. There will be, just like in any career, like there'll be dudes working at Goldman Sachs who absolutely love trading, investment banking, whatever it is, and then there'll be those who are just there because their dad told them this is what you should do, and and they hate it. For sure, you get that with musicians as well, where it becomes a job and they've lost their passion for it, and they're just doing it to make a living because they haven't known anything else. But in the case of someone like Elton John, that you can almost certainly say that's not the case, because I'm sure
he can sense the passion,
and I can sense it, and just I'm sure the wealth he has amassed over the course of his career, he does not need to be performing in Christchurch.
Sometimes I just want to say, I was thinking about sensing. You can tell when someone's passionate about something. Sometimes it pays to chat to friends and family to maybe point things out about you that you just have overlooked, or especially parents that noticed innate things in you that you cared about as a kid growing up, like
video games.
Well, my mum mentioned to me a while ago that she's like, you've always been like weirdly strangely like conscious of your like health, even as a kid, which kind of sounds like I had an eating disorder or something. But she's like, you'd come home and you'd be like, I just need some vegetables, Mum, please. I've had candy, and like I've had had a sleepover. And I was like, I just had like burger rings and candy. Like, please, I just need some fresh food.
So they just fed me soft drinks the whole weekend. Please, I need water.
So I mean, to an extent, everyone is aware of that. But and so I was like, I didn't realize that I thought I was just normal. Like, and you take things for granted like that when you grow up and realize. And
that's that. And then if you really sit there and analyze that, you can probably see how if you spend, because it's sort of like second nature thing. If you dedicate like some time to it, be like, geez, I'm passionate about health, I'm going to start writing a blog, making videos, and really pursuing it, I'm gonna find supplements to sell or whatever, health products to sell. Like
make your second nature's first nature.
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah.
That's it. There's a lot of random things that, and equally myself, probably the same, random things that if you dedicated time to it, you could probably potentially turn into something. Of course, it require that consistency, but it's just sort of I'm interested in planes. Well, I could go nuts on it. I could go out to the airport every day and start taking photos, and if I did that for a couple of years and made videos and stuff, well, I could turn it into something small at least. At the moment it's just an interest. And it's not something that I dedicate copious amounts of time to. But there's lots of little things like that.
There's like someone said, I remember watching a video on YouTube where they said just go out and just film random things, because even at the same time, if like this was in the sense of they wanted to become like a filmmaker, well, it might just appear like a silly thing, but over time they just amass and accumulate all this B-roll that they can use at any moment or any time and have there. But I just wanted to say one other thing. I was listening to a podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson, Diary of a CEO, and he said this was like a strategic thing his parents did, which he didn't realize. But growing up in New York, you don't get to see the stars, and his family like would take him out, or their family when they were kids, to as many things as they could in the weekends. Like going to the zoo, going to what he said was like the planetarium, just exposing your kids to like as many things, because you'll probably see and identify like what they enjoy, what they like.
Really good.
That's good advice.
And I think again that it can also tie back into like we were saying before. Actually, another good example is that's like Tiger Woods. Do you think Tiger Woods was born to be a great golf player? Maybe, but his father was taking him out to the golf course when he was like, I don't know, very, very young, 5,
2 or 3, wasn't he?
It could even be as I was gonna say, no older than 5. He was on a golf course, and that's what I mean, is putting in those reps. And when you're starting that young, way younger than the average person would start playing golf, you're probably going to get good at it relative to your peers. Like, if you've been playing golf since you're 2 or 3, by the time you're 8, when other people might be starting in the infancy, you're probably going to be way better. And then that's what I mean. And then that becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy. Oh, I'm really good at golf, so I enjoy it. It's not that I love golf from the outset. It's that I got good at it, and that feeling of beating other people and winning. And I
think Tiger Woods as an example, also Neil deGrasse and his parents doing that is, I think it's a testament for, like, I think it's a bit of a tangent, but a testament for self-guided teaching, like learning. I think there's also a massive stigma against homeschooled and self-guided. Even the Hagley's kind of breaking the stigma, but there's still heaps of scorn and
I
understand snobbiness about it.
I understand that stuff way more now, and unfortunately,
I think it's valuable.
Probably the shortfall of all of our parents. Not to say that they did a bad job; they were just limited by their knowledge. They thought, oh, this is the way life goes. You just send your child to school, and school will cultivate these desires and passions, and we probably all know school doesn't do a very good job of that. They weren't aware that they should be doing a mix of taking them to all these different places, and when you get a little bit of a lead on one, saying
observe the kid,
you seem to have and then if it is a real obvious example in New Zealand would be like you seem to enjoy like picking out their rugby ball, so now we're going to do rugby drills. Obviously not like these crazy, we're going to have some fun kicking the ball around, passing the ball every day after school. And then so on and so forth.
I wonder if you can do that as an adult. Can you do that kind of reintroduce yourself to self-guided learning?
Yeah, you definitely can.
And just notice where you're going on YouTube?
Well, you try new things. Like you could... sorry, just another thing from what you last said, but like my wife was saying, when they were kids, her parents... made a rule that if they wanted to try something, they were allowed to do it, but they had to at least give a year of their time, and that taught discipline. So it's like also an incentive to like carry on or put the work in, because you can't really tell if you like or enjoy something after like one lesson or two lessons. So even if they hated it, well, it's like, well, now you're learning like a life lesson or life skill.
Yeah, it's a win no matter what.
It's a win no matter what. They tried it for a year and then moved to the next thing.
I think that'd be so common with, like, I assume we're all from families where we weren't made to learn an instrument. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it can go too far the other way where it becomes this, massive chore, like a job for a child that you have to learn the violin and do it.
The classic Asian stereotype.
Yeah. But if it's cultivated in the right way, again, how many children are born knowing that they love playing the violin or the piano? I think
like learning a language is epic for your brain as well.
In most cases, I think it would be something that was cultivated and would have significant parental input. So, as I say, unfortunately, our parents were
ignorant.
Ignorant. As I say,
or naive.
No, I think it's just ignorant. They were limited by the knowledge that they had from their parents, and I think that's a good way of looking at things. Is considering the knowledge that we have and we're discussing here. Imagine that knowledge that if we have children can pass that knowledge on to them, and it would have been the same if you go all the way back through your family tree. Like, can you imagine your parents like would have been very like primitive, like the sort of advice that was going around, and it just gets exponentially greater. Like the opportunities and doors and things that our parents opened for us would have been a lot better than the doors that were open from their parents. And then I think it would be a real exponential leap with, as I say, the sort of technology and access to information that we have today that we could pass on if we have children.
That's an optimistic place to end.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good one.
It's a good wrap up.
Yeah.
Any other points?
Well, I just think, what I would probably summarize from that is like trying new things and putting in the work. Like, you have to commit a certain aspect of time, or you have to make sacrifices in the initial outset. And we probably just need to realize things don't happen overnight. Like, it's a progress. It's going to take time. And you've just got to, sucky as it is, like, you've just got to put the work in.
It's good. It's good that it's the case, because it's a real clear separation.
Exactly.
From the men from the boys, so to say. Yeah. It separates the Indian immigrants from the fourth generation upper class child who can't be fucked, know, having a part-time job.
Yeah, and I think...
And so,
like, it's a little bit of a tangent, but that's where it's probably most apparent with athletes, but also academically, is that there are these so-called gifted children who are gifted athletes or gifted mentally, academically. They can coast through a school where the level of competition is super low, but once you get out into the so-called real world, then you're going to be up against hardened, veterans of their craft. And if you were just coasting by on your good luck, your good fortune that you did have these great brains, you're more developed for your age. It's never going to beat that burning desire of someone who wasn't good from the outset, or if they were, it would be a lethal combination if they were good from the outset and they had that burning desire that they had to work hard for it. But those reps, it'll get you a hell of a lot further than just your good talent.
That just reminds me of a couple things. One of them in high school, like, there was the whole Cantomath thing. You guys knew about that.
Fun.
Got into it one year, like the team, and I was like, this is sick. Like, competing as a school, go to the town hall in this maths tournament.
Conquest.
What a nerd.
Yeah, like Conquest. But then
what a nerd.
You go there, and then you just get absolutely schooled by these other schools that are like finishing while you're on like question 10
the elite
of
schools.
20, and it just throws you down. Or the other one was I think I went to secondary school shot put, like performing for the school.
Epic.
Primarily because I think there was a rule athletes could only do perform in 3 events there, and most of those who were higher than myself, like, did other things because shot put's known as like, who cares about shot put? But anyway, it was like a cool thing. And then you go there and you're just like, yeah, I'm not up like on the same league as anyone else.
Yeah.
But it's those things. When you get out to the real world, it's like that's when
the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Maybe we'll just wrap it up there.
Yep.
Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone, to episode 21. We'll catch you next time. Peace out.
Peace.